Wow, what a fight. Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler was literally one of the best fights you'll ever witness in 2022. And a lot of it felt like the war Michael Chandler had with Justin Gaethje last year. But in this video, I'm going to be discussing and breaking down only the first round of the fight between Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler because in my opinion, the first round of that fight was round of the year. Like it simply cannot get any better than that. Back and forth action between the two fighters. Chandler almost got the knockout at one point, but in the closing seconds, Dustin turned things around. So Michael Chandler started off this fight in a very explosive fashion, and that was pretty much the same approach that he took throughout this entire first 5 minutes. Right out the gate, he was very explosive and was spamming those big kicks, and that's how he generally prefers to fight and wants his opponent to fight in the same manner, in the same technique as well. And if you look at it, that approach is what cost Michael Chandler the fight against Charles Oliveira and eventually went on to cost him the UFC Lightweight Championship back at UFC 262. So, the first big moment in this fight between Chandler and Poirier happened at the 3 minute 20-second mark. As Chandler started to mix up his striking abilities, his strikes, with his ability to pressure his opponents back against the cage. He was starting to swing for the fences and backing Dustin Poirier up against the cage, and then he hit him with a good body kick and followed up with a nice 1-2 combination. Chandler then connected with some great right hands, and the power he has in that right hand is just massive. But the problem with Michael Chandler is that he just puts so much extra effort into his shots. Like he just goes out there and swings like a madman instead of carefully picking his shots and wait for the opportunity to find that perfect opening that can actually help him in the fight. He just doesn't have that patience in him. Dustin, though, recovered quite well in that moment, and honestly, a lot of it depended on his jabbing abilities. His jab is one of the best aspects of his fighting style, is one of the best aspects in his arsenal, because I think Dustin Poirier has one of the best jabs in the fight business right now. The next big moment in that first round happened when there was an accidental clash of heads. Now, I think it was accidental, but this is where Michael Chandler almost got himself the victory. So, there was this accidental clash of heads, of course, which forced Dustin Poirier, if you watch closely here, retrieve, and Chandler was absolutely ruthless. He connected with two big right hands while Dustin was going backwards. Poirier found himself in deep trouble here. Chandler was absolutely ruthless with his shots, and then he followed up with a very nice takedown and attempted a guillotine, and then almost attempted a kimura as well. Also, in that first round, we saw Chandler doing that huge slam, almost like a German suplex. Like this right here was the perfect example of how extra Michael Chandler sort of tries to be in his fights. Like he just puts very extra efforts because there was literally no need for him to go out there and try something as fancy as that. Like he could have done it a lot easier, is what I'm trying to say. But with just less than 40 seconds remaining in the first round, Dustin Poirier turned this fight into his head and turned it almost in his favor. It started with a very nice uppercut from Dustin as Chandler was backed up against the cage, and then Chandler found a slight opening from that position and connected with another big right hand. However, things get a lot wilder than it already was. It was Dustin who came up with a big right hook that dropped Chandler to his knees. This right here forced Michael Chandler to retrieve, and Poirier connected with a good left hand, hit him with a few good body shots. And with just 15 seconds remaining in the round, Dustin Poirier connected with a huge left jab that he just unloaded on Michael Chandler from there on with lefts and rights, and ended the round with a short elbow as well. I mean, that ending rally from Dustin Poirier was literally wild. I have no other terms to define, to describe my feeling towards the end of that fight. I mean, that round itself, considering that Dustin almost got knocked out by Chandler inside the first 2 minutes of this fight. If it wasn't for the buzzer, I think there was a solid chance of Chandler getting knocked out by the end of it. Because Poirier, by that point, was almost like rallying lefts and rights. He was unloading with his shots. He was picking them quite nicely, whereas Chandler had gotten himself very tired, and it was because of how he likes to over exaggerate everything in his fights.